You've tried to become disciplined before. You downloaded the app. You set the alarm. You wrote the plan. You told yourself this time is different. And for 3 days it worked. Then the 4th day came. The alarm rang. And you hit snooze, not because you're lazy, because you were never taught how discipline actually works. You were handed motivation. And motivation is a liar. It shows up when it's easy and vanishes the moment things get hard. But here's the truth most men will never hear. The Stoics solved this problem 2,000 years ago. Not with motivation, not with hype, with laws. And once you understand those laws, discipline stops being something you chase and becomes something you are. If that's the man you're ready to become, the one who doesn't break, then stay until the end. Because the final principle is the one that changes everything. Modern culture sold you a lie about discipline. It told you discipline is about willpower, about forcing yourself, about waking up at 4 a.m. and grinding until you collapse. It told you discipline looks loud, the motivational quote on the wall, the public declaration, the social media post announcing your new life. That's not discipline, that's performance. And a man who performs his discipline hasn't built anything. He's built a stage. And stages collapse. The Stoics understood something deeper. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in Rome, the emperor of the known world, he didn't wake up and post about his morning routine. He woke up and wrote in a journal no one was ever supposed to read. One line he wrote: "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work. As a human being, what do I have to complain about? If I'm going to do what I was born for, that's not motivation. That's identity." He didn't negotiate with himself. He didn't wait for the feeling. He reminded himself who he was and then he moved. Because identity produces action, not the other way around. And this is where most men get it backwards. They wait to feel disciplined before they act disciplined. They wait for the emotion. They wait for the perfect moment. They wait for inspiration to strike. But the Stoic truth is brutal. The act precedes the feeling. You don't get disciplined and then act. You act, and discipline follows. That changes everything. Because if discipline is a decision, not a feeling, then you are never waiting for it. You are never hoping for it. You are never at the mercy of your mood. You just do the thing. Because that's who you are. And this isn't just philosophy. It's biology. Your brain is wired for discipline the same way a muscle is wired for resistance. You either build it or it atrophies. Here's what most men don't understand. Every time you quit on yourself, you're not just failing one task. You're teaching your brain a lesson. You're programming it. You're telling your nervous system, when things get hard, we retreat. And your brain learns fast. But the reverse is also true. Every time you follow through, every time you do the thing you said you would do, even when no one is watching, you're also programming yourself. You're building a reputation with yourself, and a man who trusts himself, that man cannot be broken. Because confidence doesn't come from other people admiring you. Confidence comes from keeping the promises you make to yourself. When your word to yourself becomes unbreakable, the opinions of other people stop controlling you. This is why the Stoics trained discipline like a soldier trains for war. Not because war is constant, but because preparation is what makes you ready when it arrives. And now we get into the principles. These are not tips. These are laws. Law 1, the dichotomy of control. Epictetus opened his entire philosophy with one line: some things are within our power, some things are not. Read that again. Because most men spend their entire lives disciplined about the wrong things. They try to control their reputation. They try to control what people think of them. They try to control outcomes, the promotion, the relationship, the number on the scale. And when those things don't cooperate, they collapse. But here's the brutal truth. You cannot control outcomes. You can only control effort. You cannot control whether she stays. You can only control whether you're a man worth staying for. You cannot control whether the business succeeds. You can only control whether you showed up every day and did the work. You cannot control whether people respect you. You can only control whether you're a man who commands respect. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control. And once you internalize it, discipline becomes simple. Because now you're not judging yourself by results, which are out of your hands. You're judging yourself by effort, which is entirely within your hands. A weak man obsesses over what he can't control. The algorithm, the economy, other people's choices. His mind spins endlessly around things that will never spin for him. A disciplined man focuses on exactly one thing, what he does next. Ignore this law, and you will spend your life frustrated by outcomes you can never guarantee. But master it, and you become untouchable, because no one can take from you what you control. And what you control is everything that matters. Law 2. Amor, Fati. Love your fate. There's a Stoic concept that sounds insane when you first hear it. It's called Amor Fati. Love your fate. Not tolerate it. Not endure it. Love it. Most men approach discipline like a punishment. They dread the gym. They suffer through the work. They white-knuckle their way through difficulty, counting the seconds until it's over. And that's why they quit. Because you cannot sustain something you hate. The mind will not voluntarily return to pain. It will find a way out. It will negotiate. It will rationalize. And eventually it will win. But what if the difficulty wasn't the price of discipline? What if the difficulty was the discipline? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The thing you're avoiding, that's the path. The discomfort you're running from, that's the training. A cold shower is not suffering. A cold shower is the forge. The resistance is not a sign you should stop. The resistance is the work. Once you understand this, discipline stops being something you endure and becomes something you seek out. You start looking for the hard thing. You start welcoming the friction, because you know that's where the growth lives. Ignore this, and discipline will always feel like punishment. But embrace it. Truly embrace the difficulty as the purpose itself, and you become a man who cannot be stopped by circumstances, because you've learned to love exactly what breaks other men. Law 3, Memento, Mori. Remember, you must die. This one is uncomfortable. Good. It should be. The Stoics practiced something daily that modern men avoid at all costs. They remembered their own death. Memento Mori. Remember, you must die. Seneca wrote, "You live as if you were destined to live forever." The age you're living now passes by, and still the future is what you count on. Here's why this matters for discipline. When you believe you have infinite time, you waste it. You scroll. You postpone. You tell yourself tomorrow. You treat this day like it's the rough draft, and the real version is coming later. But there is no later version. There is only now. And the question Memento Mori forces you to answer is simple. If today were your last, would you skip the workout? Would you eat the garbage? Would you waste the hours on content that means nothing? No, you wouldn't. Because death clarifies everything. It strips away the noise. It reveals what actually matters. A man who remembers his mortality doesn't need motivation to train. He trains because he understands that every rep is borrowed time. Every day is a gift he's not guaranteed again. This isn't dark. This is freedom. Because once you stop pretending you have forever, you start actually living. And discipline becomes not a chore, but the logical response to the fact that your time is limited and precious. Law 4. Voluntary discomfort. The Stoics had a practice that sounds insane to the modern ear. They would intentionally make themselves uncomfortable. Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in Rome, would periodically live on the street for a week, eating scraps, sleeping rough, wearing rags, not because he had to, because he wanted to know, if everything was taken from me, could I still be free? Most men spend their entire lives avoiding discomfort. They optimize for comfort. Softer beds, warmer rooms, easier paths, faster dopamine. They build a life designed to protect them from anything difficult. And then something difficult actually happens, and they break because they've never trained for it. Voluntary discomfort is the vaccine. You take small doses of difficulty on purpose so that when real hardship arrives, you're immune. Cold showers, fasting, hard workouts, waking up early when you don't have to, speaking the truth when it costs you, sitting in silence with no phone, no stimulation, just your own mind. Each one is a repetition. Each one strengthens the muscle. And here's what happens over time. You stop being afraid of discomfort. You stop organizing your life around avoiding pain. You become a man who can walk into any situation, any loss, any failure, any crisis, and remain standing. Not because you're stronger than other men, because you've been training in the fire while they've been hiding from it. Law 5, the inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius wrote something that should be tattooed on every man's mind. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He called it the inner citadel, the fortress inside you that no one can breach. Here's how most men live. Something happens in the world, and they react. Instantly, automatically. Someone disrespects them. Anger. Someone rejects them. Despair. Something goes wrong. Panic. They are not in control of their own mind. Their mind is controlled by whatever is happening around them. They are a weather vane, spinning in whatever direction the wind blows. The inner citadel is the opposite. It's the recognition that between the event and your reaction, there is a space, a pause, and in that pause, you get to choose. No one can make you feel disrespected. That's a judgment you place on their action. No one can make you feel rejected. That's a story you tell yourself about what happened. No one can ruin your day. They can ruin their own day. Yours belongs to you. This is the highest form of discipline. Not physical, not external, but internal. The discipline of the mind. The ability to observe your emotions without obeying them. To feel anger and not become it. To feel fear and not bow to it. To feel pain and not let it define you. Build the inner citadel, and you become a man who cannot be provoked, cannot be manipulated, cannot be broken from the outside, because your stability doesn't depend on what happens to you. It depends on who you've decided to be. Law 6. Eliminate the non-essential. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." And here's the uncomfortable question. What are you wasting your discipline on? Most men who lack discipline actually don't. They have tremendous discipline for the wrong things. They're disciplined about checking their phone every 15 minutes. They're disciplined about gaming until 2 a.m. They're disciplined about watching other men live lives they want. That's not a lack of discipline. That's discipline pointed in the wrong direction. The Stoic approach is not to do more. It's to do less, but the right things. Every day you have a finite amount of willpower. It's a resource that depletes. And if you spend it on 1,000 tiny decisions, what to wear, what to eat, what to watch, what to scroll, what to respond to, you have nothing left for what matters. Elimination is the highest form of discipline. Removing what doesn't serve you, cutting the noise, killing the distractions before they kill your focus. What would happen if you deleted every app that steals your attention? What would happen if you said no to every invitation that pulls you away from your purpose? What would happen if you stopped consuming content and started creating value? You wouldn't need more discipline. you'd have freed up the discipline you already have. Law 7. Action over motivation. All of this comes down to one law. The law that separates men who become dangerous from men who stay weak. You will never feel ready. Act anyway. Epictetus said, if you want to be a writer, write. If you want to be a warrior, train. Stop talking about it. Stop planning it. Do it. The modern world is addicted to preparation. We research the workout instead of doing it. We watch videos about discipline instead of practicing it. We plan the business instead of launching it. We spend years getting ready for a life we never actually start. And the brutal truth is, you could listen to every Stoic lecture ever recorded. You could read every book. You could build the perfect system, and none of it matters if you don't move. Because action is the only thing that creates change. Not intention, not planning, not motivation. Action. And here's what's cruel about it. The first action will feel wrong. It will feel uncomfortable. It will feel like you're not ready. That's not a sign to stop. That's the sign that you're at the starting line. Every disciplined man you admire was once terrified before his first move. The difference is, he moved anyway. So here's the command. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Today. Now. Pick one thing. One thing you've been avoiding. One thing you've been getting ready for. And take the smallest possible action toward it. Not the full plan. Not the complete transformation. One action, one rep, one sentence, one step. Because a man who acts before he's ready is a man who cannot be stopped. And a man who waits until he's ready will wait forever. Imagine a blade inside a forge. Raw steel, dark, unformed. It enters the fire, and the fire doesn't ask if it's comfortable. The heat doesn't negotiate. The hammer doesn't wait for permission. Again and again and again, heat, impact, resistance. To an outside observer, the process looks destructive. The steel is burning, bending, being beaten, but the forge isn't destroying the blade, it's revealing it. A weak blade cracks under the pressure. A strong blade sharpens. That's you. Every cold morning you didn't want to face, fire. Every rejection that made you question your worth, fire. Every lonely night when no one saw the work, fire. Every failure that tempted you to quit, fire. The question is not whether life will heat you. It already is. The question is, will you sharpen or will you melt? The Stoics understood this. They didn't run from the fire. They walked into it. Because they knew that suffering avoided becomes suffering multiplied. And suffering embraced becomes strength earned. You are in the forge right now, whether you acknowledge it or not. The only choice you have is what you become inside it. Be honest. How many times have you told yourself this time will be different, and then quit before the week ended? How many mornings have you negotiated with your alarm? How many plans have you written and never executed? How much of your life is controlled by how you feel instead of what you decided? How often do you let discomfort win? How much potential is sitting inside you, right now, unused, unshaped, untested, because you're waiting to feel ready? Nobody else needs to answer those questions, only you. Because deep down, you already know where you're compromising. You already know where you're soft. You already know where you're betraying the man you could become. And that's the uncomfortable truth. Nobody is coming to save you. No mentor is going to grab your hand and pull you out. No woman is going to fix you. No miracle is going to arrive. The only person who decides whether you become disciplined or stay the same is you. Right now, every day, one decision at a time. Now picture yourself different. Not a year from now, 6 months. You wake up before the alarm, not because you have to, because your body is trained to move. Your mornings have structure. Your training is non-negotiable. Your mind is sharper. Your words are fewer but heavier. You enter rooms differently. You don't seek approval because your standards are higher than anyone's opinion. Your discipline is not loud. It doesn't need to be. It's visible in your body, in your calm, in the way you don't flinch when things get hard. Women notice, men notice, but you didn't do it for them. You did it because you stopped negotiating with weakness and started forging. That man is waiting, but he costs everything weak in you. And weakness never leaves willingly. You must kill it, daily, through discipline, through sacrifice, through silence. The Stoics didn't build empires because they felt motivated. They built empires because they trained themselves to act regardless of how they felt. And that training is available to any man willing to take it seriously. Comment forged if you're done waiting and you're ready to build a discipline that no one can break. And remember, if growth is your mission, show some love and hit the like and subscribe button. The forge is open. Step in. Beyond flesh, strength begins where comfort ends.